I don't know, but that
Yeah.
one came through absolutely fine.
Okay, we're now live on YouTube. Okay, if you're on waiting for the session to start on YouTube, we will be starting in approximately 1 minute. Doesn't look like that. Oh, there's a couple waiting, so we'll be starting the session in about a minute. Right. All set.
Yeah.
You ready, Pi?
Yeah,
Okay, let's go.
I'm braced and ready for whatever the world throws at us.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to week 2 of Teaching Live Grammar. We got off to a roaring start last week. I always love these grammar sessions because they're always so fast and furious and full of useful information. So hopefully we will be just as on it today. It's a beautiful day here in North Lancashire. And I'm just going to give a shout out to Lancaster Road Primary School because if I just click on show you the Teaching Live website, if you go on the grammar page, if you go down to the season 11 grammar, you can see that the only tag displayed is Lancaster Road's tag because they were the only school that submitted. They might let me correct that. Until on I think on Sunday I last looked, the only school that submitted grammar up to Sunday. So if there's been any since, then I apologize. I'll sort the tag cloud out. But 47 posts there from Lancaster Road. So great effort, team. How are you this morning, Pi?
I'm very well. It's all sunny. Suddenly feels as if that we might be getting past the gloom. So yeah, I'm really good. And I was just looking at, as soon as good-hearted Mr. Grouse skipped into class 7, the familiar gloominess of the room was replaced with a vibrant brightness. He was plump with a huge smile like that of a child. "Settle down, class," the new teacher said with a smile. "How about we get to know each other?"
Oh, I like that one.
Yeah, he
Who's
jogs
that
along
by?
nicely. Well, that obviously is one from Lancaster.
It'll tell you in the margin.
Yeah,
On the left margin.
Alex. Yeah,
Oh,
well done, Alex. Yeah, that works really well for me.
yeah, excellent. Well done. Good job. Right. So we will crack on with it. Oh, well, I have not said hello to David. Good morning, David.
Hello, I'm here. I'm here, squirreling around behind the scenes, getting everything sorted. Yes, everything's good here. The green light is go. The sun is out, and like always, ready to be impressed by the children this morning.
Okay, well, we've covered some, solid basics in terms of nouns and verbs, and then those little modifiers, the adjectives and the adverbs. And now we're going to look at that nasty little group of smaller words, really, the prepositions, the determiners, and the pronouns. So these are little words that, once you've got a grip on it, it's not too bad. Let's start with a game, and we're going to start with a prepositional game. Elf on the Shelf, David, has that ever come into your life?
Yes, unfortunately so.
Oh,
Even now, every year he makes. Well, we have two actually make an
Right.
appearance. Up to mischief, you name it, they've done it.
Okay, so actually in the teacher's notes, John, there's quite a handy there's an example of the game, but there's also a list of prepositions. Now, prepositions are not surprisingly words to do with position. So if you think of, I don't know, I've got a book here. So here's the book, and I'm above the book, below the book, beside the book, and then I could even go inside the book. behind the book, in front of the book. So these are words and phrases that tell us the position of things. So that's what we're going to do with elf and the shelf. There we go. And you've got a little list there, above, against, behind, etc. I would place the elf. Okay. So I would place the elf. So I'm now looking at that list of possibilities. I would place the elf outside the classroom door. I mean, it's over to David. Where would he place the elf?
I would place the elf suspended above the sink.
Okay. Let's try and be a bit fancy with it. I would place the elf behind St. Paul's Cathedral, up a dark alleyway.
Ooh, I'm going to go. I would place the elf balancing on top of Eiffel Tower.
I would place the elf under the king's throne.
I would place the elf beside Rory McIlroy on the first tee.
Doesn't mean anything to me at all. Is that golf?
You see, it does mean something to you.
It does,
There you
yeah.
go.
Yeah, I would place the elf near. So I'm just looking along that two lines there with those red words in, those prepositions. I'm going to place the elf near near the burnt remains of Brighton Pier. So I think it's relatively straightforward. How long do you think we should play this, just to get a feeling for using prepositional words or phrases that place things, position things?
Oh, well, I'm going to knock a minute off, I think, Pi. I think we'll go for 3 minutes this morning.
Yeah, it's relatively straightforward, this one, isn't it?
Yeah. So I would place the elf. Where would you put it? Beside, above, underneath, alongside, behind. There's lots. I'll put that those list of examples up again in a second. So 3 minutes on the clock. Off we go. Right, that sound signifies the end of the game. So if you could bring your attention back to the screen that you're watching the session on. Now, I always think, Pi, that the names of the of grammatical terms that you attach to different classes of words is a bit difficult for me. I can never remember them, but I'm okay with nouns, verbs, and adjectives. But the others, I very quickly get confused. But prepositions aren't too bad because the clue is in the actual word, isn't it?
Yeah.
Position, preposition. It's position. Where is the thing? Where are you positioning that thing?
Yeah. And pronoun, actually, because you've got the word noun. Pronouns stand instead of nouns.
Yes. So I am going to we're just going to go to today's session. So let me just bring up the website.
The thing is not to panic.
Yes.
And think about what is the function of the word in the sentence. So because it's all about function, the job of the word in the sentence.
Yes. So if we go to the session page, go along the top to sessions and click on 11 o'clock grammar session. And here we go. It should say at the top, if you're in the right place, grammar session 2. Welcome to today's session. And we'll open the first Padlet activity.
Okay, we're now going to look at a group of words called determiners. And determiners are little pinpointers. They determine who or what the sentence is about, and sometimes how much or how many. So I've given you a list of them: this, that, those, these, some, many, etc. But let's have a look at the instructions. So what you've got to do is rewrite the sentence. You don't have to change that sentence at all. So you're going to literally write that sentence, but obviously fill the gaps in with a determiner. And it determines which one. Take that word cat. Is it this cat? That cat? Can't be those cat, because it would be those cats. Can't be many cat, because that would be many cats. Is it a cat, the cat, my cat, your cat, his cat, her cat? Whose is it? So determiners are that little group of words that determine, and they snuggle near the noun. Could be this red cat. So red is the adjective, but this determines which one. It's this one, not that one, not her one, not his one. It's this cat. So I'll do this first one, and then we can let everybody loose. So, well, something morning. It's got to be this morning. Can't say that.
It could be tomorrow.
Tomorrow morning, but it isn't. It's this morning. This morning, I would say that cat. This morning, that cat will scratch
his
leg, or my leg, or your leg. So there are possibilities. You've got to think about it, but obviously you've got to end up with something that makes sense. So if dolphins swim, you can't say this dolphins swim, because it's dolphins. So you've got to find a determiner which tells us which ones. When you've got something cat sat on something mat, I like something hat and something coat. Look at something burglar stealing something watches. Something soldiers ran onto something as something tanks appeared. That last one's a bit trickier, John.
Okay, so I'm going to, when David's unfrozen the Padlet, I'm going to put my name and my school, and I'm going to go for this morning is cat. And no, I've got the comma in. Well,
Morning, comma. Yeah.
I can't spell cat though. This cat will scratch.
Will scratch
leg.
her leg. And is he going to do the full stop? He has.
Yes, and then I'm going to click submit.
And it's important to remember the capital letter, the full stop. And if there's any punctuation in the sentence, you've got to get that in, because this is about grammar. Therefore, it is about 100% accuracy, John.
Absolutely. So that's the critical thing.
Now, the trouble with marauding dolphins is that's not a determiner. That's an adjective. You told me a little bit about the dolphins, but you've not told me which one. Whereas this morning, Claire, you've got the comma in the wrong place.
And Myra from Bolton Parish, you've said, can dolphins swim? Again, that's not a determiner. That doesn't tell me which dolphins are doing the swimming. So it's going to be these dolphins, those dolphins, her dolphins, his dolphins.
It's in that list, John. It's going to be one of those.
Or it could be the number 10 dolphins.
Yes.
Those grey dolphins swim. This morning, my cat will scratch my leg. Yep, Dominic, that sounds as though it's a personal experience. Next morning, my cat will scratch his leg. Whose cat sat on her mat?
That's a question.
Yeah, so you would have to put a question mark there, Afra and Isla.
Bobby.
All dolphins swim.
Yes, well done, Mariam.
Yeah, well done, Mariam.
Bobby from Lancaster Road, you've got a rogue capital letter after the comma. You can edit that. Now, if you stick to my list, you can't really go wrong.
Look at the burglar stealing those watches. Yep, that works, Lacey. This morning, that cat will scratch your legs, Sophia. I like that hat and her coat. Evie from Lancaster Road. Marion from Bolton Parish. No, that's not following the pattern. This morning, that cat will scratch his leg. This morning, that cat will scratch their leg. Yeah. This morning, his cat. So a lot of people doing cats and scratching. So there's actually nobody's attempted the last one yet. See if anybody can make sense of that last one. 200 soldiers ran onto this as those tanks appeared. Yes, Mukti, that's good. So Sophie and Bella, you've a million soldiers ran onto the field. You've added a noun there rather than using a determiner as some tanks appeared. Yep. The brave soldiers ran onto the battlefield as the tanks appeared. Ran onto the battlefield.
Ran onto
it, perhaps. So sometimes it might not make that much sense on its own. If you said 100 soldiers ran onto it as the those tanks appeared, you don't know what it is, but presumably in the sentence that came before in the story, that would be made clear. So
yeah,
all the soldiers ran onto it as those tanks appeared. Yes, Lucas, that's good.
Or ran onto that.
Ran onto that, yeah. Mostly dolphins swim. Not sure. Mostly is not a determ. Is that a determiner?
It's an adverb.
An adverb. I was going to say the ly ending. So most dolphins swim.
You can also tell, John, because adverbs you can move around. So you could say dolphins mostly swim or dolphins swim mostly. So it's an adverb.
Yes, indeed.
It roves around.
Whereas if you said most dolphins swim, dolphins most swim, and dolphins swim most doesn't make sense.
No. So it's most. In fact, it should be all dolphins swim because they do.
Yes.
They don't.
There is no such thing as a non-swimming dolphin.
No.
Okay, we'll come out of that Padlet. And just reminder, very simple, the and a are also determiners. So
Yeah.
somebody, I think it was somebody at the end there used, where was it? I'm just going to quick look right at the end. Was somebody from St. Patrick's had put, if I go right down, if I can find it. No, I can't find it. It was somebody put used and it's very simple. You know, a cat will scratch my leg. That works as a determiner just as well as any other more complex word. Right, we'll go back up to the session page.
So that's a little look at determiners. They just need practicing, spotting which is the determiner, and then filling in those sorts of activities. We're going to look at pronouns now. Are you on that page, John?
I'm just about to be. Pronouns. Here we go.
Handle 2. There we are. Pronoun, and again, the clue is in the name. They stand instead of nouns. So if you've got Boris is eating Boris's donut, it sounds a bit odd to say Boris is eating Boris's donut. John is drinking John's drink. You might just say Boris is eating it, or he is eating it. So you've got the girl. So we could say she grabbed the burger, it, and she ate it. Or she grabbed the burger and ate it, something like that. It helps to avoid repetition, because it sounds odd, John, if you say the girl grabbed the burger and the girl ate the burger. It's much better to say she grabbed it and ate it, something like that. So what we got to do is I've got a list here, and it's actually a paragraph. We've got to try and make the sentences clear for the reader by using pronouns, but sometimes you might need to keep the name Garth and Dragon. So what you're doing is you're replacing basically Dragon and Garth. I'll read it to you. You can hear how it sounds odd. Garth watched as the dragon landed with a thump. Now that sounds all right. Garth stared at the dragon breathed fire at Garth. Garth hid from the dragon opened the dragon's mouth. Garth lifted Garth's sword, the dragon shook the dragon's head. And you can hear it sounds weird because we keep repeating Garth and dragon. So it could be that first sentence, he watched as it landed with a thump. That would work if you already know that you've got Garth and the dragon. But you certainly, for the second sentence, don't want to go Garth stared at the dragon breathed fire at Garth. So you've got to replace Garth and the dragon. Now, there may come a point where you think, I need to repeat the word Garth because the reader might have forgotten who is lifting the sword, for instance, or who is opening the mouth. So you've got to avoid a muddle. Do it sentence by sentence.
Okay, we'll go on to the Padlets. So rewriting that paragraph with
pronouns,
but it has to make the reader has to understand it. It has to make sense.
Yes.
So that's the critical thing with writing. You can be as technically correct as you like, but if it doesn't make sense, it's still not good writing.
So you're just replacing the blue bits, not doing anything else.
Yeah.
So that's the sentence. You're just going, he watched as it landed with a thump. Then you've got to work out what comes next. So I've done that first line for you. Probably better to start on Garth stared at the dragon. You've got to replace Garth and the dragon.
Amelia and I'm going to say Aoife from St. Patrick's. I'm really sorry, Aoife, if I've got your name pronounced wrong, because I don't. I'm not certain how I would pronounce it. He lifted the sword. You could say the sword, but instead of if you go back to the original, it was Garth lifted Garth's sword. So I think you could use a pronoun there. He lifted his sword, I think would work better.
Alex has got that from JMPS, and so has Mustafa.
He lifted the heavy sword.
Tim Garth lifts
Garth lifted his sword. Sophia and Finley from JMPS. Yeah. Garth stared at it. Garth lifted his sword. The dragon opened his mouth. So, yeah. So a lot of these, if you put them all together, you're still going to get a lot of repetition. So you will want, wherever you've written Garth or the dragon, have a think about whether you can replace that with a pronoun. The dragon shook his head. He shook his head. Garth stared at it. Bob watched as the creature landed with a thump. He watched as it landed with a thud. Garth stared at the dragon. So you're only rewriting these sentences. You don't need to go and do your own.
Yeah.
Because if you start doing that, you lose track of what we're doing here. What we're trying to do here is replace these nouns. So we've got a proper noun, Garth, and we've got a noun, the dragon, and replacing those with words to stand in place of those nouns. In other words, pronouns.
Yeah, so it's not asking you to be creative and do anything other than change the blue bits for pronouns. So Dad watched as the remote landed with a thump. Whilst it's an interesting sentence, all you've got to do is Garth watched as the dragon landed with a thump. So the pronouns would be he watched as it landed with a thump. So you've not done what you've been asked to do, if you see what I mean. And as I say, whilst it's an interesting sentence, but it's not correct. And that's the thing about grammar and grammar tests, isn't it, John? That you have to absolutely follow what you're being asked to do to the letter, and remember your capitals and full stops, etc. Otherwise, you won't get a tick.
And that's so because children are brought up in school to write creatively all the time.
Yes.
Actually, learning grammar is a much more technical thing. It's not about creativity. It's about getting the punctuation right, getting the words right in the right place. So he watched as it landed with a thud is exactly right, Lacey, because you've just replaced the nouns with pronouns. So that's spot on.
Ella and Sophia, the strong dragon opened its massive jaw. Again, whilst it's interesting, all you need to do is it opened its mouth, because you're doing we're just looking at focusing on
these sentences.
Yeah, the pronouns, just to get practice.
So you would do, if we go through it, Garth watched as the dragon landed with a thump. He stared at it. The dragon, I would probably put the dragon again there. I'd leave that one. Breathed fire at him. He hid from the dragon, or he hid from it. The dragon opened its mouth. Garth lifted his sword. The dragon shook his head. Simple as that. So that's all we're asking you to do, not rewrite anything at all. So we'll go back to the Teaching Live site, go to this morning's session, and we will jump straight into Padlet number 3.
And you want the PowerPoint?
Do you want the PowerPoint first, Pi? You can do.
Yeah, let's do the PowerPoint first.
Let's have a bit of a break from that.
Yeah. So
what we're talking about here is the basics of sentences, the job that words are doing in the sentences.
yes, and that's how I knew mostly was an adverb because I didn't panic. Okay, prepositions. They usually come somewhere near the noun or the pronoun, and they show the position above the palace, beside the palace, inside, outside the palace, under the sea, below the sea. So they're position words. They can also show direction. He went towards the shop. So it's sort of positioning.
From
Yeah, and they can also show time or even cause. So time would be before lunch, after lunch, during lunch. It's almost like the position of when something happened. The children were with their friends. So the ordinary positional ones are easy. Just watch out for those time ones in particular, before, after, and during. Sometimes in tests, people use those just to be annoying, catch you out. So those are the position ones. I think they're relatively easy, those, John.
Yeah. If the clue's in the word position,
Yes.
think position in terms of time as well. That's a good point, that one, Pi.
Yes. Common prepositions. So I've made a list of those, and worth having those to hand in your English book somewhere or other, just to remind yourself. They're very good for describing settings. So if I was describing this room, I could say, at the end of the room was a bookshelf absolutely packed with books. On the ceiling, there are a number of different spotlights. To one side, there was an enormous painting. So he stepped into the shop. On the ceiling hung several clocks. Against the counter stood an old umbrella. In the corner, there were 2 jars of sweets. Tucked between a bookcase was a stuffed owl. So when you're doing settings, it's not a bad idea to think about showing the reader what's going on, and you're going to need positioning words. Say it was looking into a valley, you'd be saying into the valley, down in the valley, on the other side. So you'd be using your position words. So that's a bit on prepositions. And watch out for those time ones: before, during, after. And then next we go to probably determiners.
Now we go to nouns and capital letters, Pi.
Are we? I
Yeah.
can't see it. It just says we're still on prepositions here. Oh, there it is, nouns. Okay. Oh, yes. I just dropped this in. We all know this, I think. So you've got common and proper nouns. So common are the everyday things like dog and a cat, but proper ones are particular people, places, months, and days. So you've got to remember that. So James went to London on Friday in July. Pretty much captures it. So we got a particular person. And it's the front of the sentence. London is a particular place, day of the week, and month of the year. So people, places, months, and days, and they must have capital letters. But if it said James went to the town wouldn't have a capital letter. If it said he went to Stroud, he would have a capital letter because Stroud is a particular place. So that's just a little reminder. Common, those are the everyday things. Proper ones, special things. So we give them capital letters. That's people, places, days of the week, months of the year.
Where people sometimes get it slightly wrong is where you have a proper noun that's made up of 2 words. So, for example, I live in the Loon Valley. And normally you'd write the valley as just like you would the town.
Yes.
It would just be a normal small v. But when you attach it to another noun to make a proper noun, so Loon Valley is the place. The place is called Loon Valley. So both have a capital letter and become a proper noun.
Yes, I get muddled over that. I have to keep reminding myself. I noticed earlier I wrote Sharpen Woods, and the word woods was a small.
You did it twice, Pi. You wrote Golden Valley with a small v.
I did. You're absolutely right. Yeah. It's it's tricky stuff, and you
It
sort
is
of got to learn it and keep reminding yourself, and have things up on the wall that help you, and write it in your back of your journal, etc.
And
So
I get confused. I can never remember that days of the week should be proper nouns.
Yeah.
Which is odd because in Spanish, and because I'm sort of learning Spanish, they're not. And so in English they are, and it confuses me, and I never remember.
poor old thing. So plurals and apostrophes. So nouns can be singular or plural. Singular, single. Plural, lots. Single means there's one dog, and plural means there's more than one, 2, 3, 4, 5 dogs. That's relatively straightforward, I think, because of the word single. It means there's one of them. That's what it is. Plural, lots. So relatively straightforward. Then we've got apostrophe for omission. And you just have to learn these. I can't. Can't actually means cannot. But what they've done is we've taken some of the letters out, because in speech you say, generally speaking, I can't do it rather than I cannot do it. So the apostrophe stands for the missing letters. Then you've got the other one, and this is where it all gets a bit more complicated, the girl's handbag. So that's for possession, the handbag belonging to the girl. So that's how I do it in my head. Have you got a way of saying that, John?
I do exactly the same as you, Pi. I just think who's this thing belonging to, and the only difficulty is where you have a proper noun. So instead of saying the girl, you'd say Jess. So Jess's handbag. When you speak, you would say Jess's handbag. And so you would think, well, okay, I put JESS and then I'd add apostrophe S, Jess's handbag, the handbag belonging to the girl. But quite often people don't do that. They just put the apostrophe. And that's also correct. Is that not right, Pi?
I don't know. I think it would be, I think for the children, it's best to put the apostrophe and the S.
Yeah, okay.
Then you're certain of it, if you see what I mean.
Yeah.
The tricky bit is when you've got a plural. So if you've got lots of girls who all have handbags, you've got the girls' handbags. And then you've got the girls' apostrophe, the girls' handbags, the handbags of the girls. That's the little tricky bit.
Yeah.
You couldn't say the girls' handbags.
No, you couldn't. That would be wrong. Absolutely. Okay. I have a feeling that we need to send out a practice sheet for that one, Pi.
Okay.
I'll put one together and send it out.
Good idea. Now, determiners, they're the pinpointers. That cat sat on this mat, so it determines which cat and which mat. They also determine how many or how much. Few humans can eat 6 shredded wheat. That is probably true. So whenever I have shredded wheat, I do like to go for more than 3. Determiners determine. They pinpoint. That boy pinched those apples from these trees. And you can see they snuggle right up by the noun. You could have an adjective in there. So you could say that greedy boy pinched those red apples from these old trees. But it's still determining, pinpointing. And some of them are possessive. They're to do with owning, possessions. My apples, your apples, his apples, her apples, it's, ours, and their apples. So they possess, they show possession. So I've got a list of common determiners there. They're a bit like a type of adjective. They tell the reader exactly what you're talking about. That dragon ate a burger. So those are the very common ones that you see very, very often. And they are a bit like a sort of adjective, but they determine rather than add colour. Pronouns. Boris is eating Boris's donut. Boris is eating his donut, or he is eating it. And there's a list of common pronouns. They stand instead of the noun. So if it says, Mrs. Jenkins, I don't know, rode on the elephant. You could say she rode on it.
An interesting one in there, Pi, is somebody. Somebody spoke. It's a pronoun, but because it's not being, it's not giving you the name of the person that did the speaking.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
Somebody spoke, or somebody opened the door, or whatever it might be.
Yes. Some pronouns are possessive. So, as we said earlier, that's to do with ownership, possessing. Possessive pronouns answer the question, whose is it? It's mine, it's yours, it's his, it's hers, it's ours, theirs, it's. The dog belongs to Joe, the dog is hers. It belongs to her. So hers is standing instead of Joe, it's hers.
Okay, and last of all,
They're useful because you can avoid repeating nouns. So if you look at my blue sentence, Joe grabbed the burger and Joe ate the burger. After Joe had eaten the burger, Joe went outside. It's a bit like how year ones write. They tend to repeat the nouns endlessly and have to be taught how to use pronouns. So we could say Joe grabbed the burger and ate it. After she'd eaten it, she went outside. Mark you, if you keep going with the pronouns, the reader may forget the name of the character. So you have to every now and then reinsert it. So you might say, Joe grabbed the burger and ate it. After she'd eaten it, she went outside. Joe stood for a moment and stared around her. So after, say, 2 or 3 sentences, probably need to repeat it.
okay. Yeah, otherwise people do get, readers get confused.
Yes.
Right, so we'll go back to the session page and go on to Padlet activity number 3.
Little bit of a game which sort of summarizes what we've been doing so far. Now we know what adjectives, nouns, verbs, adverbs are. We now know a bit about the determiners. It determines which one. So I've got a red kite. I said that red kite. I could have held it up and said this red kite, but I'm saying that red kite. Could have said his red kite, her red kite, a possessive. Flew gracefully, now preposition above, and then a pronoun, his. Instead of saying John, I could say his, and a noun, house. So the idea is you write sentences, but you've got to follow that grammatical pattern. Let's have a quick go at one, John.
I'm going to say,
you start.
That blue ship sailed, I'm going to use the same word, gracefully upon,
that's got you under trouble.
Yeah, his pond.
Okay. Let's do it word by word. I'll start you off. 20
green
chameleons
sat
cautiously
upon
a
branch.
Okay. You start this time. Do another one.
His
unpleasant
smell
wafted
disgracefully
towards
her
nostrils.
Very good. So,
okay.
So you've got to follow the exact pattern.
Follow the pattern.
Follow the exact pattern. See if we can get them sentences in that order. So you may well have to look at that.
It's quite a nice game, really, because it forces you to use the different word classes that we've been discussing. And if you've got to hand little lists of common determiners and pronouns and prepositions, it'll obviously help you.
There's some obviously some gears grinding here.
Yeah.
This is a difficult one to moderate, David, because we think we want them accurate.
Okay, I shall take my time and look carefully.
Yeah.
I might put some ones that have some talking points as well, though.
Yeah, go for it.
Capital letter and full stop, essential. That blue car drove peacefully around her school. Excellent, you two.
Oh, and Oliver and Poppy.
The Red Scout sat silently in his padded cell. Ooh, you've got a random capital letter for Scout, but the rest of it, a broken bottle smashed painfully across its shell. That scarlet bird glided beautifully above her house. The brown bookshelf stood swiftly beside her desk. Lily, you need to knit back and put the full stop in. The yellow canary chirruped sweetly on his finger.
I'm not sure about swiftly in that sentence, Lily. I'm not sure how a bookshelf can stand swiftly. The yellow canary chirped sweetly on. Yeah, that's a good one.
What about Leon?
I love Leon's, from Lancaster Road.
This three-legged cat levitated randomly next to their car. Freya, I think you've missed out. Stomped through his cave. You've missed out an adverb.
Yeah, stomped noisily or stomped angrily or stomped. The massive giant ran angrily inside my house. Jane from Lancaster Road. That purple hat blew quickly around his school. That mad dog ran crazily around the playground.
I'm loving somebody's got a feisty chihuahua. That's Lacey from Lancaster Road. The feisty chihuahua jumped clumsily over the moon.
Yeah, you can have real fun with this one.
Yeah.
A beautiful toaster. Lucas from Lancaster Road crawled. You've missed out the adverb, Lucas. I want to know how the toaster is crawling next to their shed. Those angry hippos, those rainbow hippos, trotted angrily near your car. Fraser and Bruin from St. Patrick's.
Riley from Lancaster Road. The ugly slug skidded gracefully along his garden.
It's the combination partly of ugly and slug, and then skidded gracefully. It's the juxtaposition of the words, isn't it?
And it paints the picture. I've got kind of sound effects even in my head.
Yeah.
Whereas Mishka is much more correct. The beautiful stars twinkled delicately above his house. Beautifully written, Mishka.
Mustafa's got that luxury Lamborghini drove rapidly through his school. What about Sophie and Bella's? The radio.
My mind is boggling with that one.
Wrestled wildly inside her facility.
The beautiful clock ticked silently above the fridge.
Nice. Ed and George from JMPS. That orange clown runned frantically around the alleyway. Can you hear that runned doesn't work? Past tense of to run is he ran. That orange clown ran frantically around the alleyway.
The depressed man walked sadly to his hotel. The furious elephant stomped powerfully on top of the man's house, of his house. So you've used a verb instead of a pronoun. A noun instead of a pronoun there, Melody.
Brooklyn and Olivia. That pink clock lay emotionless on the side of her museum. Lay motionless, I think you need.
Well, it could be emotionless.
It could, yes, without emotions. Lacey's got a £250 elephant stomped carelessly on your new car. So there you go.
Yes, I know.
The flickering candle levitated peacefully above her bed.
The massive chicken sprinted amazingly around her palace.
It's the unexpected combination of words.
The purple bus leapt grandly over the speed bump. Yeah.
Joshua, the enormous dark spider climbed creepily across the ceiling. You need a full stop at the end of that one, Joshua.
And if you think you're getting there, just go back and check the grid. Go back and check the grid to make sure you've got it right. The colourful sign hung beside the wardrobe.
That needs
missing an adverb, isn't it?
Yep.
Don't forget your adverbs. Grace from Lancaster Road, have a look at yours and go back and put in capital letter and full stop. The majestic eagle swooped gracefully above the clouds.
Mukti, a frightened poet, tiptoed cautiously across his bedroom. That works, Mukti, because we're all thinking, why is he frightened, this poet? Why is he having to tiptoe? Is there a burglar in the house? Alfie, the baby dragon, yawned inside of its cracked egg. You need an adverb, yawned noisily or something. Yeah.
And Izzy and Edith, you've missed your adverb out. The ugly frog jumped rapidly onto the lily pad. Yeah, that works. Okay, well, I think we're just it's quite a fun one, this, but go back to the original. Determinate, adjective, noun, verb, adverb, preposition, pronoun, noun. Follow that pattern. A good game to play, actually, that one. So we'll go back to the session page and we will go to the blog challenge.
Okay, so I'm looking at contrasts in settings, something that works really well, I think, for both character and setting. In this instance, it's settings, so we're using outside and inside. Look carefully at the examples, see where the commas are. So the first one is outside, the snow fell across the silent city. Inside, a fire blazed and the hall was full of laughter. So you'll notice, John, we've got outside, comma, inside, comma, and then it's really cold outside the city, but inside there's a fire blazing, the hall is full of laughter. So I got a contrast between outside and inside. Outside, the rain fell across the beach. Inside, the heat steamed up the cafe's window. So trying to get this contrast using outside and inside. Outside, a grey mist wound its way through the streets, smothering the houses. That sounds a bit sinister. Inside, the children warmed their hands over a thin candle flame. Outside the cave, now that one is a bit different because it's not outside, comma, it's outside the cave, comma, dragon paced up and down. Inside, the hobbits huddled. If you scroll down a bit, I don't know if that's the last. Yeah, there's another one. Outside the school, again, that's, you've got to expand it. If you're going to add in where, outside the cave, outside the school, outside the city, you've got to shift your comma. Darkness began to close in. Inside the year 6 classroom, comma, Mr. Godber lit the lanterns. So what we're looking for is a clutch of pairs of sentences starting with outside, inside. Think of different settings, try and get a contrast, capital letters, full stops, get the comma in the right place. Now, if you go to the teaching notes, there are also a few other little activities that that we just got time to look at, John, very quickly. So if we skimmy down, okay, go down one, prepositions. So thinking of two things that you, this is a bit like a poem, two things that you can see, rather like a tower on a hill, and use prepositions of time or place to describe. So I've got upon the distant mountain, a stone tower glowers. Upon the tallest tree, an owl waits. After the rain falls, silence gathers in pools. After the stars glitter, the moon stills the city. And I've given you a few prepositions that you could use. So that's like writing a little poem, really, John. If you scroll down a bit, I've got something else there. This is a bit like the game we played. So if you go down a bit, right. So everybody needs a grid. And the idea is that if we were playing it, the three of us, we'd all start with determiners. So I might write thee, those, 20. And then I fold it over so you can't see what I've written. Then I pass it to you, you pass yours on, John, David will pass his on. So you pass them around, and then the next person writes 3 adjectives, fold it over, pass it on. The next person writes 3 nouns. And of course, you don't know what the adjective is, let alone the determiner. Fold it over. Next one does the verb. And what will happen is you'll get a funny sounding sentence, rather like the ones that we were writing, but it's even more random because you don't know what the person before you had written. You'll end up with 3 sentences. This one, see if you can reorder the determiners so it makes good sense. Each baker grinned as he turned a pies over. Well, a pies can't be right because you can't say a pies. They were cooked on a sides. 3 pie had the beautiful crust. The 2 cats sidled up to our safe hiding place, the eyes scanning for scraps. So you've got to fiddle around with the determiners. And the next one, the grin that crossed the orc's face was almost as wide as the tunnel in which lived. Shuffling, plodded into the underground lair. Steve decided to follow, waited till the orc had disappeared, and then began to follow. So you've got to put in the correct pronouns, John. So there's a few extra little activities there for people to have a go at. Is there one more? What's the problem with this paragraph? Can you fix it? The unicorn flew down the lane towards the dragon. It stared at it as it landed and wondered if it was friendly. It snorted at it and it waited. It eyed it and it was uncertain what to do. It turned and flew off, leaving it behind. It sighed, relieved that it was gone. So I've overdone it on the pronouns. And of course, what happens then is you lose your way with it.
Okay, so you've got plenty to go out there. So you've got another 4 activities that you can do beside the blog challenge. And if any of you do write a preposition poem, stick it into the blog because we like to read them. And let's see if we can get some more blog posts up this week. Well done, Lancaster Road, for last week's effort. And we will, we're out of time, so we're going to wind it up there, and we will see you next time for more Teaching Live Grammar. It's bye from me.
Bye, everyone. Well done. Can't hear a word he's saying. Look at him.
Yeah, we'll just leave him.
I'm here.
Yeah.
Well done, everyone. Thank you, and I'll see you next week.